Yeah, I just turned 5. 5 days later, I think. They put me on that damn train. I don't call it school, I call it a concentration camp. That's what I always called it.
From 1819 right up until the 1970s, the federal government removed tens of thousands of Native American children from their homes and placed them in boarding schools. It was part of a larger effort to assimilate tribes into mainstream society.
We were in an environment where suddenly you could make no decisions. Your day was planned from the minute you got up till you went to bed. You did exactly what you were told. You did exactly the same thing every day.
Children were dressed in uniforms, given English names, and forbidden from speaking their traditional languages.
I feel like the boarding school era kind of crushed a lot of our people here, especially with the whole language thing, you know, breaking them and beating them for speaking their own language or singing their songs.
The way they went about disciplining kids for stepping out of line was really, truly brutal.
Punishments included beatings, withholding food, and solitary confinement.
What was the purpose of boarding schools? Was it to assimilate? Which means to divide, to defeat, to take control over, to change and have authority over. But you can't do it if you don't separate. That's why they didn't get to go to the same schools. That's why they were sent all over. So they couldn't have attachment with their family to separate that spirit from the elders to the children, from the siblings to the siblings. It gave me the goosebumps thinking about that, because it's a painful thing.
The first off-reservation boarding school opened in Carlisle, Pennsylvania in 1879. It was modeled after a program used on indigenous prisoners of war. More than 10,000 Native American children from over 140 tribal nations attended school here.
The superintendent would write down their name, their tribe, their agency, and the date that they had arrived. And that was part of this bureaucracy and enumeration. That was absolutely part of the intake process.
The off-reservation boarding schools were initially supposed to be industrial and agricultural training schools where the children that attended them could learn to be farmers and wagon makers and kind of have a more or less education. They were supposed to learn to speak English. Ideally, they were supposed to be Christianized, but effectively, they were supposed to become workers. And this is their worker training.
In 1880, the federal government opened the second off-reservation boarding school in Forest Grove, Oregon. It would eventually become the Chemawa Indian School, which is still open today. Researchers found that at least 270 children died while at Chemawa, often from tuberculosis.
If this were to happen to any other group, it would be viewed as a crime scene.
There's deaths and there's other abuses, a lot of other abuses that went on into the present era.
My mom went to boarding school up in Chemawa, I seen the scars, big old scars around her back, and they beat her with a rubber hose.
Eventually, there would be hundreds of Native American boarding schools across the country, many run by churches.
When we went to Catholic boarding school, Mom said, oh, they're religious, they wouldn't hurt my kids. That's no laugh.
3rd and 4th grade teacher, Sister Veronica, she was a hitter. She pulled hair. She had a 12-inch ruler, the little metal thing on the end that she loved to hit you with. And I remember her slapping my brother in the face because he was a crier.
Because of those direct experiences that happen to Native kids in boarding schools with the sexual abuse, with the physical abuse, and that psychological abuse, that all impacts the generations after that.
Children need families because that provides a sense of security and love. And that was missing for generation after generation of Native children.
I never really got to grow up in a traditional family like that, so a lot of it's still new to me. A little faint sound was heard in the distance, and you could hear something going on, and they heard the song. You know, I just give Big Mo Sipketch a big thank you to all those survivors, and especially the ones that were able to come back home to give us a little bit of knowledge, because without them, you know, like, yeah, we wouldn't be here without them, and their love and their strength to be able to move forward.
If our ancestors could survive going to these schools, and we know how bad the schools were, if they were strong enough to do that, we're strong enough to do whatever we're facing today.
Dwahake Gingwatan Ben Hutsagen, Dwahake Gingwatan Ben Hutsagen, Dwahake Gingwatan Ben Hutsagen, Dwahake Gingwatan Ben Hutsagen. No matter what, they got up and went on again.